All right, welcome everybody. Glad you are here to the First Priority Mentor Connect. This is a time where we just simply talk about relevant topics for youth pastors who are serving on campus, especially in their first priority clubs, helping lead students to reach their campus with the gospel and help connect their friends to a local church. And so that is the goal, is to really help you as student pastors who are leading to obviously not to simply do a better job on campus, but to see more students come to Christ and to see more students connected to your church. And so the great news, big news, is that this is now a podcast. There are episodes that are up from last few months, and so we're really excited about that. That this will be in a format that everybody can listen to and be a part of. And so what we're going to do now is this is going to be every 2 weeks. We're going to have a new topic and new session going on to help you guys. And today's topic is getting more Christian students who are on campus connected to their club. And so I'm joined today by John Harvey, who is with First Priority up in St. Lucie County and Indian River County. Mike Galt, who is serves as our director down in Miami-Dade. Jonathan Manning, who serves multiple campuses down in Miami-Dade, and Crispin Coaching, student pastor at extraordinaire at Coastal Life Church in Palm City. And so we're excited that all you guys are on today. And so the problem that we really see on campuses a lot of times is that if there's 100 students who are on a given campus that don't know Jesus, or that do know Christ, how do we get all them connected into the same room to get them there to say, hey, listen, First Priority is not just some random club. This is a missional opportunity for you to reach your friends with the gospel, but we have a club that's 15 kids. And how do we really effectively get more Christian kids involved to really grow our clubs, to strengthen them so that in turn they can reach more students on campus? And so really, this is just all about how to do that, looking at 3 different ways of, okay, how do we do that within our networks? How do we do that within clubs? And how do we do that within church, within our churches? And so, Crispin, I'm going to start with you. You're student pastor. You've got about 60 to 70 students that come on a regular basis at church. You're serving in Anderson Middle, which has, 20, 25 students that come on a regular basis, but obviously in a community where there's multiple churches, and multiple churches have students that go to that school. And so let's just kind of talk through that. What are some ways that you there on campus are helping try to really get more Christian kids involved?
Yeah. First of all, thank you guys for inviting me on here. It's kind of weird that you think I know what I'm talking about, but I will share all the knowledge that I feel like God has given me. So for me, I've been at Anderson I think this is actually my 5th year at Anderson. I did the math the other day, which is crazy. But one of the things that I have noticed on clubs, on campuses, and also in ministry in general, is ministry leaders tend to be really, really hard on ourselves, and we set the bar really, really, really high. Or you're the ministry guy that's like, oh, I don't care, and that's not good either. But when we set the bar really high, I think sometimes we forget the power of faithfully showing up every single week to your club, every single week in students' lives, every single week connecting with other student pastors. So for me, this year, I feel like one of the best things we're seeing is student leadership, which absolutely goes along with getting believing students connected, because that's where they're going to connect in reality, is in leadership. And so I've noticed that over the last 3 or 4 years of building relationships and connections with them, that has been the best part in my opinion, one of the best parts of First Priority is getting to know all those kids.
Absolutely. And so with that, we're talking about, really you're developing the student leaders. And so with that, it comes ownership. They're taking ownership of their club, which builds the excitement. So maybe kind of share maybe a story or two of, like some of that success.
Yeah. So we have a couple of kids more than a couple, about 5 kids that are always ready to lead. And it's so cool. One of them attends my church. A few of them attend some other churches. And we actually, I know this is crazy, but we actually do what First Priority tells us to do. And what I do is I print out 2 copies, like on an Equip Week, for example, I print out 2 copies of the lesson, and I hold one and I hand one to another student, and they literally read through it and they lead the discussion time. So we've seen success, honestly, in me after 4 years learning to let go and let the students lead it. Even if it's choppy, it's way better than when I lead it, way better.
And so how is that in turn getting the students are getting fired up? They're having more ownership. How is that exciting? Are you seeing that boil over into other students who are now saying, hey, I am bringing my friends who go to church with me, I'm bringing them now to club?
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of that. And one of the cool things actually just last week, so 8-9 days ago, we had 2 kids show up for the first time because someone knew them, and it was on a Connect week. And so I said, hey, normally we have a few kids planned out to share about their church. And so we did, but we had a spot that was unfilled. And so one of the kids that was there for the very first time was like, I'll do it. And I was like, part of me was like, oh no, what are they going to say? And the other part was like, hey, this is a great opportunity. So I just asked them real quick, like, hey, what church do you go to? Make sure they're not just going to get up there and make stuff up. But to me, that was so cool because we saw someone who on week 1 wanted to be involved, not just sit there and show up. And that was an invite from another student. So that was really cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And one of the keys is you mentioned that is we're really getting other churches connected on the campus. It's Church United, the capital C church coming together on campus. And so John, up in Indian River County, it's at Sebastian River High School. They have done an amazing job at really seeing a lot of church, really the main players of churches up there, really the students coming together on campus. Just share briefly about that.
Yeah, so at Sebastian River High School in Indian River County, we have 4 churches that their student pastors serve as the campus mentors. And so they're there every week. They set up, they plan out what's going to be happening with students. And what we've seen happen is it's brought a diverse group of students together to lead. So one week you may have somebody from Lakeside Church leading and a student kind of coming from that perspective. The next week it's somebody from Riverside Church, and they are sharing in that responsibility. But it starts with the student pastors being willing to work together. There's not competition. They come in, they have a same vision and focus to reach the campus. And that club has really exploded. They have some weeks, they'll have 180 students over 2 lunches. It's just kind of an amazing thing. But I think it's that shared ownership of the campus between the churches, and it's the uniting together that is really important. And then entrusting that to students, letting students see this isn't about my one particular church. This is a kingdom movement. And what's happened, the feedback that we've gotten from the campus mentors is that they are seeing students from clubs show up in churches, and they may come and, a friend of theirs invited them and they just showed up at club and they weren't really connected to the church. And then they meet somebody who goes to a specific church, or another friend, they found out goes to a specific church, and they're showing up at youth group on Wednesday night at that church. And so it's been an awesome thing to watch churches partner together and to really move students into a kingdom-minded mindset to reach their campus. And it's been awesome to see how that shared ownership, it's not all resting on one person to make it happen. And it's not being, the club's not full of students from one church. It's multiple churches involved, and those students are then showing up from campus at the youth group. And so it's been a really exciting thing to watch happen over the last few months as that has really begun to get off the ground.
Yeah, and one of the things that we have seen, and we really see it play out a lot is really within our network meetings, and so that is a huge part. And I've seen it play out in numerous network meetings on numerous occasions where student pastors at a given campus and has like 8, 10 kids, and he's like, man, I really need to get some more solid students, and they're around the table, and you'll get a guy go, oh, I've got like 5 students that go there. Hey, let's come together so I can get those students connected. Mike and Jonathan, you guys run some pretty decent sized networks down in Miami. Give us some of your thoughts about maybe how you've seen that play out down where you are to see more students getting engaged in their clubs.
Yeah, I mean, really, we just actually had a network meeting yesterday at down here in Miami at Topgolf, and I think one of the big things that we really strive to do when we have the network meetings is really have a collaborative time and zone where the youth pastors are really connecting with one another. Because right when people start talking about their struggles and trying to get onto campus ministry, man, it's just so easy. Actually, one of the things that just happened was one of the situations at a middle school is one of the teachers ended up saying, "Hey, I can't be the teacher sponsor anymore," and honestly, she was saying, "Hey, I'm going to just shut down this club altogether because I can't do it anymore." And we didn't really were unable to kind of like push her forward and being able to say, hey, is there anybody else? But from the network meeting, we were able to kind of talk to one of the youth pastors. He said, oh my gosh, man, I have 3 teachers at my church that work at that school that would love to be the teacher sponsor. And from there, man, just that conversation is just so fluid. Exactly what you were saying, Jeff, is really when you're struggling in one spot, and it's then vocalized into that community of the youth pastors and the different churches. They're like, well, hey, man, I have 10 students that go over there. If you are if you're the club mentor that's at that school, man, let me just tell my students to actually go. And many times, what's funny is many times the other youth pastor doesn't even know this is the first priority at that other school. And those students at his youth group many times don't even know. So then it goes to a place where they're now broadcasting that, hey, we have first priorities at this school, this school, this school. And man, it just kind of, it ends up emphasizing itself, you know what I mean? And so, and then another thing that they do really well in the network meetings and, in the network is really being really intentional on inviting the other youth pastors to speak at the club. And so, all of a sudden, so a youth pastor from Brave Church is now speaking, for the youth pastor at Christ Fellowship and at 2 different clubs. And man, you're just impacting the campus. They walk on, all the youth, from both services know that they're coming onto campus. And, it really ends up being like a beautiful thing. And you just get everybody involved when you really collaborate like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Crispin, talk a little bit about that, because I've seen that really happen really well in the network you're in there in Martin County. And you guys do a real good job with that. Just share some highlights, share some things that, maybe you feel come out of that are really important to really help get more students engaged on campus.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything he just shared. It's so good. Those network meetings are crucial. And so we've had a cool thing in Martin County. I've been here almost exactly 5 years, and several guys have been here longer than I have in student ministry, which we all know is not the norm. So it's been really cool for us to know each other for these full 5 years. And what that does is, just like he shared, is we're not in competition with each other. And so we've had the opportunity. I have 2 students from Covenant Fellowship Baptist Church that my buddy Jay Holland is their student pastor. And these 2 girls show up every single week, and I know them through Jay. And so I have that trust level, like, hey, these girls can lead a prayer. If there's 5 kids there, or if there's 50 kids there, I know they're going to do it. I know they're going to do a great job. And honestly, that's only because of my connection with Jay. And now being with them the last couple of years, I've had the opportunity to use them. But that competition piece is huge. When we lose the mindset, when we lose the kingdom mindset, God's kingdom, we just lose. And that's the reality.
Yeah.
That is so good.
Important to remember that.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that's key too is it's not sometimes just showing up to be the speaker at a Proclaim week. Maybe it's just going and attending a club and just hanging out. I talked to the youth pastor the other day, and I said, hey, man, if you just come and hang on campus for a couple of weeks, your students will know that you're there. They will engage at First Priority, and then maybe they will eventually step in and be leaders in the club, as opposed to they only come when you come to speak. And I think that kind of mindset of, hey, I don't have to come just when I'm the featured speaker. If I just go hang out a few times and encourage students to get engaged in the club, that helps really more than just announcing it on Wednesday night or whatever. It's that physical presence showing up at school. And it's also, it communicates to the students you care about their school as much as you care about the one you're the mentor at. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great mindset to foster between youth pastors.
That's good. Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, listen, I was going to say, listen to you guys, we there's a lot of good stuff. I mean, there's a lot of good information going on. There's a lot of good ideas. Sometimes, though, I think that, some guys are in a little bit different position. They're in a position where maybe they haven't been at the school very long. Things are just getting started. Maybe they're at a school where maybe students are a little bit more, difficult to come alongside. Maybe a lot of the students in their clubs, we're not even sure. I mean, they maybe raised their hand, but maybe we're not sure they even go to church very often. And so one of the things that I think that we keep hearing through everything everyone's talking about is really doing everything we can, no matter how little or no matter how big, is to get students ownership in the club. Because when the students have ownership in the club, they're more excited about having their friends come. And I've seen that happen in multiple cases where we have brand new schools. They've never had a First Priority Club before. They're maybe in a middle school where it's maybe everyone knows that's one of the rough places, And these kids come, maybe they come because they're already at school for another reason, because after school club, whatever it may be, and they come to the First Priority Club. And so there's a lot of work to do. A lot of them don't have, youth pastors to go hang and chill with to have built that relationship. And so one of the things that we try to do, just to take that first step, is little things like maybe getting them to pray. A lot of kids are afraid to pray, but by every week we just go, hey, every week we play a game, we pray, and we talk about Jesus. And so when I go to these clubs that are just kind of getting started, I actually say, so what's the first thing we do every time? Oh, we play a game. So what do we do next? And I make them, we pray. I was like, all right, so they want to pray today. And it'll surprise you, obviously, how often those little things happen. And once the student takes that first step of ownership, being involved in the club, you can start taking more steps and get to where we need to go. Because look, our students can do way more than we give them credit for. The problem is that a lot of times their parents don't believe they can do it. Their teachers definitely don't believe they can do it, right? And it's not because everyone's evil. It's because they just see so many kids that just don't seem to have it together. And it's because a lot of times they're not given the opportunity. And the only other thing I would say is giving the kids ownership is definitely huge. But when it comes to the local youth group, I've seen some huge success by churches in our area just every week. When they make the announcement, say, hey, if you have a First Priority Club at your school or you want to have one, come see us. We'll get you going. And then just letting kids know, hey, this week we're going to be at Richmond Middle. So if you go to Richmond Middle, make sure you see us on Friday. And I've seen that be so successful. Just a consistent, just announcing it, letting people know the stories, the things that are happening. And you'll be surprised. I actually had a school start with a bunch of students from a church that does this consistently. And the school actually started a club. They called it First Priority. They actually were meeting on a consistent basis, and they never even called or talked to us. They just basically started a First Priority Club on their own because they heard it at their church so often. So ultimately, a teacher came to me and said, hey, you guys got a club at our school? I'm like, no, we don't. What are you talking about? And we got them connected with pizzas and everything else, and many kids have now been saved since then. But having it happen at the local church, that consistent reminder of, hey, we're here, we're doing this, come to this school to see us, just having those consistent reminders in the church makes a big difference. There are students that are even in other schools that now will go start clubs because of them hearing, okay, this is what everyone else is doing. I got to do it too.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things about that is so important, and Chrisman mentioned it earlier, is the student leadership with the curriculum, giving them not just lead the game or say a prayer, which are important. Those are great
Right.
things we have to have.
Those
But
are first steps.
but the fact that we can give a student the whole outline and let them lead it just deepens their commitment. It deepens their ownership of the club. It deepens their walk with Christ. It deepens their connection, and it raises them up as leaders. And really, the oversight of it is simply the idea that we're making sure they're following the script. Like Chrisman said, he has one, they have one, and he's able to guide them through that, but they are the ones taking ownership. And then other students will look around and say, hey, I want to do that next week, or hey, I want to, and it just, I think that's how it really begins to develop. So I think that
Absolutely.
dynamic of it is a key aspect to student ownership.
That's why one of First Priority's core values is ownership.
That's right. That's right.
Oh.
And so really hearing to like really we've seen this with student ownership on campus, giving them the material, the curriculum, giving them the opportunity to lead, even if it's just simply getting up and saying welcome to First Priority, is huge, because we know ownership just bleeds over into everything else, and they get excited about it. When they get excited about it, they bring their friends with them. The other thing is, and that I'm really hearing, obviously within network, network is huge. It's key to be there. So if you're listening and you're kind of in and out at networks, stop being in and out at networks. Go. It'll definitely enhance your club in a huge way. But the other thing I wanted to touch on is really youth pastors taking ownership outside on their midweek services on a Sunday morning. Great example of this was I was at a church back in September, just sharing about First Priority, just encouraging their students to, hey, get involved at your campus. And I even said, hey, at this school is Proclaim Week tomorrow. And they had a lot of students that were there. And so they heard about it there on a Wednesday night from their youth pastor, from me. And that next day, like, that club doubled in size with all those students that came from that church, because they knew that it was happening. And so that is key. It's key at church, constantly putting out there, because if you're passionate about it, if that's what you think is important for your student ministry, you want to be able to turn around and say, this is where it's at. It's happening on your campus. Get involved. But the key is, and John, you touched on this, talking with those student pastors and saying, if you've got kids at a school that are not involved, go park yourself there for a couple weeks. Go hang out. You're not mentoring the club. You're just hanging out, because you're just trying to get your students to be there. It's all about presence and proximity with students. And so when you're present and you're in proximity to them where they are, they'll come, because they're like, oh man, Christmas hanging out at my school for the next couple of weeks. Great, I'm going to go. And what that does is that really gets them in the mindset, oh, this is the club. This is what it's all about. Because a lot of times you're a student on a campus, and, John, you've got a student on a campus. I got a student on a campus. It's like there's a lot going on. And a lot of times it's in and out. They forget. But if they know their student pastor, hey, I'm coming to hang out at your school today, there's a good chance that they're going to show up. But so really it's all about ownership. The more you can give students ownership, the more you kind of say, student pastors, take ownership of your club within network and at church, the more students are going to tend to really want to gravitate. And so guys, we're just going to go around the horn and just give everybody who's listening one thing that they can potentially do to get more students involved in club. John, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I would say the first is really making club a priority. And it's not so much the club as it is the mission of reaching the campus for Christ. If that is a priority of your student ministry, then it makes it very easy to point students to a club that's going to teach them how to do that at a place they are already. And so making that a priority and directing students to be engaged in that from a student pastor perspective, that becomes just a win-win for the kingdom of God and for your ministry as well. And so I think that is a key for everybody.
Absolutely. Chrisman, one thing.
build common ground, even with your believing students. Recently, there's been some students that I know they know Jesus, and in my head, I'm like, you should be at your club every week, but they're not there. And you know what doesn't work to get them there is to guilt them into it. But what does work is to build common ground, almost revolting, going back, reversing to your early youth ministry days where you showed up at your church or your club for the first time. You're like, I don't know anybody here. And literally all I did was just get to know people. Almost, that works. That actually works. So reversing to those days, get to know the kids and just value them. Let them know, man, I want you there. I actually want to spend time with you at club. And then that helps them be valued. And then they value their friends and then they invite them.
That's good. Mike, what do you got? One thing.
Just make that club as exciting and enthusiastic as possible. So there's just a whisper throughout the whole school, because that'll not only get Christian or non-Christian students to come on Proclaim weeks, but on the other weeks, people are like, man, I got to be involved in that. I mean, I'm a Christian. I go to church. I've got to be where that thing's going on. And so just having that energy and enthusiasm is a huge component into getting kids, inviting their friends, and letting other Christian students get excited about Jesus in their school.
Awesome stuff. Jonathan, what do you have?
My one thing would probably be communication. I just think, man, making sure that either you have the students that are in your youth group on some type of text forum. Many of us use the Remind app, WhatsApp, just anywhere where you can be letting people know that, hey, you're on campus, club is happening today. Man, I just think there's been so many times, especially with the middle schoolers, they just forget. And it's just the biggest thing to be in front of them however you can be, especially when you walk onto campus, because when you walk onto campus and you're walking into a club, man, it's just so much better when everyone from the youth group is there bringing all their friends. Momentum and the traction that you get is just undeniable, man. You'll have your club double in minutes just by making sure everybody actually knows club's happening that day and, hey, you're there. And this is actually happening. So communication, even if you're not there, we hit our clubs up, all the time. One of my clubs up right before, even if I'm not going that day, and I'll still hit the club up through the Remind app and do a blast text to everybody. And they all know that, hey, clubs today, make sure you're there. And man, it's just huge.
That's awesome. Good stuff. Guys, thank you so much. Just an incredible insight today. So if you're listening, man, take some of these nuggets, take them back to your club, to all that. I would say the one key is for me would be networks, getting involved in, just being consistent at network meetings. You get a free lunch or a free coffee, whatever the case may be, which is great. But at the end of the day, you're really enhancing really you as a student pastor, reaching students where they are. On campus and encouraging your students to take ownership of not just club, but it helps them take ownership of their faith, which for all of us in student ministry, that is a huge goal for all of us, is that our students take ownership. They take ownership of who they are in Christ. And as they grow in Christ, they grow themselves and they bring other people along with them. And so that is the key part of all that. So, guys, thank you so much for being a part. And if you're listening, be sure to subscribe. And we'd love for that to happen. Share it with other student pastors as well. And also, if you have questions or comments, you can get in contact with First Priority. FirstPriority.cc is the website. If you want to know more about the Mentor Connect, it's FirstPriority.cc/Mentor Connect. And all the video part is archived and is up on YouTube. And the podcast side is FP Mentor Connect. And so you just put that in the search box and it'll pop right up. And so John, Chrisman, Mike, Jonathan, thank you so much. I'm Jeff. I totally forgot to introduce myself at the beginning. I'm Jeff Stanford, Director of Palm Beach Treasure Coast for First Priority. But anyways, thank you guys so much. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.